pace is dropped for another go-round of soccer down here. It is a Friday, and so, of course, it being a Friday and it being the last day of the year, the man forgot to do that. So nothing, no real surprises. Yeah, you can kind of tell when when it's going to be one of those days. It's the last day of the year here at Soccer's Morning Show, and thank you for being a part of the show each and every time this year that we've dialed it up. You guys have been there and you've been a part of the SDH community, and we can't thank you enough for being a part of everything. So, once again, thanks to all of you guys this morning. Obviously, we're going to talk about Pele, and we're going to talk superlatives for 2022. And it's like the best match or best matches. This is where I wanted you to get your thinking caps on for this morning. Best matches, who you enjoyed watching the most, what star that you enjoyed seeing come onto the scene, those kinds of things. Now, I'm going to phrase it this way: don't tease anything for 2023. Say that for Monday. Monday is the beginning of 2023. We're not, we'll be here, 9:05 as we always are. And so the 2023 superlatives, New Year's resolutions, anticipations, those kinds of things, that's Monday. This is where we put a bow on 2022. Who you enjoyed watching the most? Who's your MVP of MVPs? Matches you enjoyed? All those kinds of things. So we're going to put a bow on 2022, and we're going to obviously discuss the loss of Pele yesterday. And what I wanted to do was, we were kind of thinking about it yesterday, as all the news is coming, and you're sitting there and you're just going, man, 82. And in a lot of ways, it was far too soon. I was thinking about the first time that I watched Pele play, and I guess technically this is our opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Use the code right there for those of you watching on Twitch, and you can get all of the Kickoff Coffee that you're looking for. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchase, and they in turn take 10% and reinvest it into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at kickoffcoffeeco.com, Kickoff Coffee CO on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I was thinking back, and it was Soccer Bowl 77. That was the first time that I actually got to see Pele play. It was his farewell match. And I went back and I tried to do a little research on it because it was broadcast, it was syndicated by TVS Television Network, TVS for short. They were a syndicator, and they did things like the Liberty Bowl and things like that. They were one of the early folks that would do independent television production, and this was before sports networks and things like that. And so if there were big games, then TVS would be the ones to hop on it. And it was, it was one of those ideas early in television. And as Jarrett Smith joins us, because, I kind of have to tell Jarrett where to go. And if I don't send him the link, then he can't join off the top of the show. So that's completely and totally my fault. You can tell it's a Friday. But Jarrett, I was explaining, obviously, with the loss of Pele, the first time that I got to watch him play, and it was Soccer Bowl 77. And it was his farewell match, and it was against Seattle Sounders for the championship in the North American Soccer League. And what I remember was after the match was over, this one image that always sticks in my head is that Jim McAllister, defender for Seattle, had to have been the luckiest man on the planet, because if I remember it correctly, and of course I wasn't even 10 years old at the time, Jim McAllister got Pele's jersey in the swap after the match, and that was one of the things that always stuck with me, with all of the celebrations and everything attached to it, with Steve Hunt and Giorgio Canaglia scoring, and it was 2-1. It was tied until the 78th minute. Canaglia scores with 12 minutes to go, and Cosmos go away with a 2-1 win at Civic Stadium. I just remember all of the rush of humanity when it was done. And Jim McAllister, I would love to know if Jim McAllister still has that Pele jersey, or if the McAllister family still does. But that was the first time I got to see him play. And now with all of us getting to see all of the old videos and things like that, just the artistry, just, before a lot of other folks had the same kinds of moves, we got to see them from Pele, and we're getting to see them through the magic of videotape and what folks post on social media these days. When it comes to Pele, what comes to mind for you?
I mean, almost the idea of the reputation precedes the player. Like, think about how good he was, and think about for a younger generation that it's like almost the reverence of the reputation more so than the player. And it's one of those things in sports where you have some athletes where you're just like, yeah, I never saw them play, but we know the stories, we know the fables that come with it, in a good way. In the same way of like how you explain Michael Jordan to younger people. Um, Other than like, I mean, you can watch highlights of them, but like to see it in action, to like watch them at their peak, to like, I'm sure watching Pele at his peak was different than watching highlights of it now. But the reputation preceded itself. The level of brilliance preceded itself, and also the commercialization of like, it felt like a time where like people were being able to start, making money on this, like making, that advertising money that comes with it. And it's an interesting kind of part in history. I mean, remember The Simpsons kind of pokes fun at it in their soccer episode. Um, I don't know, that scene always sticks in my head with Pele. Because it also fits in my philosophy of all athletes should get as much, should do everything in their power to make as much money as they can, because when your tools of your trade are a ticking time bomb that is your body, you should maximize what you can while you can. Um, but yeah, I think for me, a lot of it is just like, it's the reputation that that leads the way there, of somebody who is just so insanely good that you can just hear the name, and you didn't have to see the clips. You just knew growing up, being told that somebody was transcended their sport, transcended sports in general. I mean, like you said, um, you got somebody who was coming to the United States in the 70s, in an era where soccer's in a weird spot in this country, and is basically, a can't miss entertainment piece. It's a wild time to be alive. Um, it'll be interesting who we look to next. I know Messi is Messi.
Mm-hmm.
Messi's in that GOAT conversation, especially now that he has his World Cup, and especially now that he did so much to get his country over the line in that World Cup. It wasn't like he was a passenger in that ride.
Yeah.
Um, who picks up that mantle next? Because he's about done. Pele's gone. Maradona's gone. Ronaldo is choosing the path of most resistance in his career at the end, and
no doubt.
making an absolute ass of himself.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Messi's almost done with his. We've talked about this, that like, I know the whole Miami rumor was going on. It was a good time to push it in November. It sounds like he's saying, I think they said, yeah, he's staying at PSG. Like, would you bet against him just skipping MLS entirely for a bit,
Yeah.
and going back to Newell's to wrap it up and just chilling out? Like, but who's next? Like, is it Mbappe? Is it Erling Haaland? Like, who is the next? And they're not the same player. Don't get me wrong. Who is next that has to carry that mantle? Because as these guys have shown you, like, it's a hell of a mantle to carry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of expectation, and if I'm being honest, a lot of unfair expectation that comes with that lot in life. Um, It is weird though, being in a world now where like these guys who were just like when you thought of like the greats of the game. Cruyff died what 5 years ago, something like that. You know, but guys who were synonymous with it, with guys like Pele, guys like Maradona, even though Maradona was a certifiable crazy person. It's very weird now that we're looking at the situation where we're figuring out who's next,
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out who can reach for immortality next, because it's what he was, and they pushed the same thing with Maradona. I remember they did his timeline was his birth date to infinity symbol. I feel like Pele's in the same conversation.
Yeah, no doubt.
It is that fabled, heroes get remembered, legends never die stuff from the Sandlot.
Mm-hmm.
Who's next? Who's next to try and achieve that? I don't know after Messi if it's Mbappe or if it's somebody else, because I think it takes a very unique person, a very unique mentality to do that stuff.
Yeah. Nick's with some really cool stuff to think about this morning. Amazing quote from Andy Warhol about Pele. Pele was one of the few who contradicted my theory. Instead of 15 minutes of fame, he will have 15 centuries. And Nick says it's weird that they were friends and that he was one of Warhol's muses. But I mean, if you're Andy Warhol and you're picking muses and you want Pele to be one of your muses, you can't go wrong with that. And I mean, there were the still photos yesterday that popped up of Andy Warhol taking pictures of Pele in New York in that time frame in the 70s. And remember that Pele has his ties to Atlanta when I want to say it was 68. And I think Pele was he was 28 at the time. And this is, when the Chiefs are starting up and it's at Fulton County Stadium, and there were Santos from Brazil comes to Atlanta, Fulton County Stadium, plays the Chiefs, beats the Chiefs by the score of 6-2. And Pele had a hat trick. And as legend carries it, there were folks that didn't know, didn't know Pele from, Joe Torre maybe. And pick your member of the 68 Braves at the time. But by the time that the match was over, you had folks mobbing Pele at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. That's the kind of impact that the guy had. I mean, just showing up in a market. It's like, oh, okay, Dick Cecil and the Atlanta Chiefs want to bring one of the most talented players of all time to Atlanta to showcase the game, and you do that with Santos, and he scores a hat trick, and they win 6-2. So, I mean, even Pele has ties to the city of Atlanta, and how the game in its infancy here in this market still carries its way through 54 years later. And it's just the amount of pictures and video and just the artistry and what he meant and how he crossed all these different strata. And I know there were a lot of folks yesterday that were somewhat commenting about his acting and how he even made the Nazis stand up and cheer, with Max von Sydow in Victory, and the bicycle kick at the end and things like that. And so when you have that kind of appreciation and it's in the movies and you see that same kind of artistry play itself out, I mean, it was just one of those things that you can't pin down to one dimension. He was a three-dimensional star and had impact across all these different worlds. And Emilio reminds us, he's got photos with everybody, Queen Elizabeth, Richard Nixon, you name it. He's got a photo with him. And when you can make that kind of an impact across the board, to your point, Jared, it's going to be the thought going forward of who's next, who is going to be this ambassador. And we saw the video yesterday pop up again of the Diego Maradona talk show, and he has Pele there, and he dreamt about having a header drill with Pele. And so Pele's the guest on the show, and he says, hey, let's, can we go ahead and do some headers right here? And so in the middle of the show, they're just like, okay. They're wearing their headset mics, and so they walk out away from the table, and they're right there in the studio. And in front of this audience, they're just having a header. They're just going headers back and forth. That kind of stuff. It's been fun to watch all of this stuff come from what impacts folks in their different ways. And now that Maradona and Pele will be together again, you can just imagine the fun that they're having playing together again after losing Pele at the age of 82 yesterday. And but yeah, my first exposure was Soccer Bowl 77. And I remember sitting in the back of my grandparents' house, because my grandfather, he's just like, you get that standard response about throwing your hand in the air about what is this stuff with soccer and all this kind of stuff. But, so you have all of that wander its way through. But yeah, for me, it was Soccer Bowl 77, because I went to the back of the house and I'm watching this star of stars. And when I was that age, I was the kid that was sending all of the letters to all of the teams to see if I could get stuff sent from the team to me. And so after Pele and Soccer Bowl 77, I sent an envelope to the Cosmos and wanted to see if I could get something from the Cosmos that I could have in my room. And I ended up getting an autographed picture of Giorgio Canaglia, which is somewhere in my stacks. I can guarantee you I still have it. It's probably in my storage locker. But that's how I had my first stages with the sport in and of itself. And you see how it rubs off on folks. And I would just, the one thing, and that was how it started for me. The one question I have is, does the McAllister family still have that jersey from Soccer Bowl 77? Emilio's in this morning. As a 12-year-old in grade school, my wife knew of Pele, and they played soccer in gym class. And then Will, as a child in Chicago, AYSO, aged little kids soccer. I remember seeing a grainy VHS of Pele. It's the first memory of soccer I have, and I remember being blown away. If that's the memory that started the soccer love when I was 8 or so, it's quite a memory. Will, you ain't kidding. And so, yeah, go for it.
So my favorite thing about one of my favorite anecdotes about getting someone's jersey still is Kelvin Wilson, who played, I think, at Nottingham Forest, and he played at Celtic for a bit. He played against Messi once, and he was playing as a 6, and he said in an interview, he's like, I didn't say anything to him because I didn't want to give him any excuse to murder me on the field.
True. Yes.
And he said, during the game, we're just standing there, like, waiting for a set piece to be taken. And I just asked him, like, hey, can I get your shirt after the game? And he said, Messi was like, yeah, sure, whatever. He said, I think what happened is no one thought to actually ask.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that can happen with these guys. Is like, imagine playing a game against these guys. You're like, hey, can I get your shirt? And just no one else thought to ask.
Well, no one.
You're sitting there holding history.
Because no one has the courage to do it. They're like, man, I don't know. Should I go up and ask him? Do I ask him? Do I not ask him? Because you're trying to straddle that line of okay, this is really cool. I've got to do my job, and I'd really like to take something home with me. And no, I imagine that a lot of players in these situations, they don't want to breach that whole thing of about being professional, but at the same time, they feel like they wanted to take something from it because they love the sport so much. And so, no, I completely get that. But yeah, I the courage to ask someone. I mean, that's a story.
We do this. So we do this in tennis. Like, can you imagine some of these? Like when Serena was playing, even a year ago. Serena's been playing for so long. She was playing against teenagers that weren't born yet when she started. You imagine like being like, you're a kid watching tennis, and and then you grow up, and that person you watched is then standing across from you. She's probably the same player she was. No, but she can still serve a ball through a brick wall,
Uh-huh.
and she can still serve it through your corpse if you're not fast enough.
Yeah.
But like, I can't imagine like that feeling of, these people who are kind of immortalized in their sport, but do it for so long, where you have entire generations that grow up looking up to them, and then you get these kids who get the chance.
Yeah.
Same thing with guys like Thiago Almada,
Uh-huh.
playing with Messi,
Yeah.
with all these young players that Argentina put on the field. That like these guys were children,
Uh-huh.
small children,
Yeah.
when he was really hitting his stride at Barcelona. Like, imagine like these kids who like get to watch Pele or get to play with him, got to play with him at the end of
Mm-hmm.
his playing career, and thinking like, you just thought, man, he makes me want to play for the Brazilian national team. But then to realize, hey, not only do you get to do that, you might get to play with him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's some immortality stuff, man.
Yeah. So I know that you turn into a pumpkin for a half hour or so.
Yeah, and then trying to get back into it.
Yeah. When you come back in hour number 2, we'll talk about 2022 and superlatives and memories and things like that for the year in general from everything that we watched and going forward. So figured we'd start with Pele, finish with 2022, and work that way. So when you come back,
It's only fitting.
Yeah. So
to start with Pele. Sorry.
last hour of the year, we'll talk about everything that we watched in 2022. So we'll see you in a bit. Jarrett Smith, everybody. And so Jarrett will be back. But here is your lineup in Soccer Bowl 77 for both sides. For Cosmos, Shep Messing in net. You had Bobby Smith, Warner Roth, who was also in that movie and got scored on by Pele. Carlos Alberto, Nelson Moraes, Terry Garbett, who was subbed on at halftime for Vita Dimitrievich, Beckenbauer, Tony Field, Pele, Canalia, Steve Hunt. So that was your lineup for Cosmos in Soccer Bowl 77. For Seattle, Tony Chersky was in net. Mel Mackin, Jim McAllister, Mike England, and Dave Gillette. That was your back four. Adrian Webster, Steve Buttle, Jimmy Robertson, who was subbed for Tommy Jenkins, Jockey Scott, Tommy Ord, and Mickey Cave started, and David Butler came in to sub for Cave with about 20 to go. So Jenkins came in with 10 to go. Butler came in with 20 to go. Jim Gabriel was the manager of the Seattle Sounders in that match, going up against Eddie Fermani. And TVS had the broadcast. It was John Miller, the longtime voice of Sunday Night Baseball, San Francisco Giants. Paul Gardner was your color commentator, and Soccer America, and he's covered it since '73. Walt Chisowitz was your sideline reporter. But that was your rundown of Soccer Bowl 77. Like I said, that was my first memory of Pele. And, of course, my first memory is his last match. And then I've had to build backwards. And Emilio, the Cosmos crowds were rocking. It was at Soccer Bowl 77 was at Civic Stadium in Portland. And the attendance was 35,548. So they had 35,000 at this match. And I just remember when the match was over, just the massive humanity that was going on to the field. And I just see this, they're following, they're tracking Pele with the cameras and everything. And then you see Jim McAllister, and McAllister is there for the jersey swap. And it was one of the wildest things, and yeah, I'm in the back of my grandparents' house, and I'm like literally inches away from the television, because that was how we were when we were kids. Before your parents and grandparents told you, don't sit that close to the television, you'll get like, what did they say? It was, you'll get poisoned from all of the radio waves and things like that from sitting that close. But yeah, that was my first memory of Pele. Then you go to Victory, and then you build from there, and then you work your way backward with all the documentaries and all the film and all the video that has popped up, and just the sheer the sheer number of accolades that Pele got in his time. You're just sitting there and you're like, really? Seriously? That he had all of this stuff in his career, all of these things, 3 World Cups for his country. Santos won the Serie A championship, Copa Libertadores in 62 and 3, Intercontinental Cup 62 and 3, Super Cup in 68, Paulista, the Campeonato Paulista 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 times, last one in 73. Soccer Bowl, Atlantic Conference Championship in the North American Soccer League in 77. 3 World Cups, 58, 62, and 70. 2 Roca Cups, 1 Taça de Atlântico, 1 Taça Osvaldo, 3 Taça Osvaldo Cruzes, 1 Copa Bernardo O'Higgins. 2000, Pele and Madonna shared the prize of FIFA Player of the Century, intended to be based upon votes in a web poll. But after it became apparent it favored Maradona, many observers complained that the internet nature of the poll would have been a skewed demographic of younger fans who would have seen Maradona play, but not Pele. FIFA then appointed a family of football committee of FIFA members to decide the winner of the award together with the votes of the readers of FIFA magazine. Committee chose Pele. Maradona was winning the internet poll, so they decided he should share. So top scorer in his league with Santos, basically every year from 57 to 65, and then he won it 2 more times, 69 and 73. Best young player in 58, silver ball in 58, France's Ballon d'Or for 7 times, 58, 59, 60, 61, 63, 64, and 70. South American Championship best player and top scorer 59. Copa Libertadores top scorer 65. Overseas Personality of the Year by the BBC 1970. Golden Ball 1970. South American Footballer of the Year in 73. NASL All-Star Team all 3 years he was in the league. Duh. Top assists in 76. MVP in 76. Number 10 was retired by the Cosmos in 1977. Citizen of the World by the United Nations, 1977. International Peace Award, 1978. And this is where we were getting into with all of the how he just transcends sport with things like this. FIFA Order of Merit, 84. American National Soccer Hall of Fame, 92. Goodwill Ambassador, UNESCO, 93. Winner of France's Football's World Cup Top 100 in 1994. Marca Leyenda, 97. A Marca legend, basically. World Team of the 20th Century, 98. Football Player of the Century, 99. One of the most important 100 most important people of the 20th century by Time Magazine. Greatest Player of the 20th Century by World Soccer. Athlete of the Century by Reuters. Athlete of the Century by the IOC. World Player of the Century in 2000. South American Player of the Century, same year. FIFA Player of the Century, like we were talking about with Maradona. Laureus Lifetime Achievement Award in 2000. FIFA Centennial Award in 2004. FIFA 100 Greatest Living Footballers, same year. BBC Sports Personality of the Year Lifetime Achievement Award, 2005. Best Brazilian Player of the Century, 2006. Greatest Football Player to have ever played the game by Golden Foot, 2012. FIFA Ballon d'Or Prix d'Honneur, 2013. World Soccer Greatest 11 of all time, 2013. Legends of Football, same year. South America Best Player in History, L'Equipe, 2015. Inspiration Award by GQ, 2017. We talked about transcending once again. Global Citizen Award by the World Economic Forum in 2018. FWA Tribute Award, 2018. Ballon d'Or Dream Team, 2020. All-time men's dream team and South America all-time men's dream team of 20 and 2021. Okay, here's orders, by the way. We're going to be here a while. Knight of the Order of Rio Branco. Elected Commander of the Order of Rio Branco after scoring his 1,000th goal. Order of Champions, organization Catholic Youth in the USA. FIFA awarded the FIFA Order as a tribute to his 80 years as a sports institution. Order of Merit at South America by CONMEBOL. National Order of Merit by the government of Brazil. Cross of the Order of the Republic of Hungary. Knight Commander OBE. Order of the British Empire. So that means he's an honorary knight as of 1997. Olympic Order 2016 by the IOC. 9 gazillion records when it comes to what he did on the pitch. Joint most goals, Brazil national football team. Highest goals per game ratio, Brazil, South America, Intercontinental Cup. Most goals, Intercontinental Cup. 643 goals for Santos. Most goals scored in a Cinco Campeonato Paulista season, 58 and 38 matches. Most goals in a calendar year, recognized by FIFA at 127. Most hat tricks at 92. Most career goals in world football, 1,283. Most FIFA World Cup winners' medals. Youngest winner of a FIFA World Cup. Youngest goal scorer at a FIFA World Cup. Youngest player to score twice in a semifinal. Youngest player to score a hat trick in a World Cup. Youngest player to play in a FIFA World Cup final. Youngest goal scorer at a FIFA World Cup final. Youngest player to score twice in a final. Youngest player to start in a knockout match. Youngest player to receive 5 FIFA knockout stage goals. Youngest goal scorer for the Brazil national football team, 16 years, 9 months. First player to score in 3 successive World Cups, one of only 5 to have scored in 4. One of only 5 to have scored in 2 different FIFA World Cup finals. Scored in 2 FIFA finals for winning teams. Most assists provided, World Cup history, single tournament, World Cup finals, World Cup knockouts. Most goals in open play. Only player to reach 25 international goals as a teenager. Only player to score in a FIFA World Cup before turning 18. Only player to score a hat trick before turning 18. Only player to score a hat trick in the Intercontinental Cup. That is crazy. And that's what we lose, sadly, with Pele at the age of 82. Niall says that Pele will be buried at Santos Stadium, as he should. The Knicks, yes, was just looking up info on Escape to Victory. Michael Caine, Sly Stallone, Pele beating Nazis. Yes, absolutely. That's what you're watching later. And Michael Caine, who was, how do we say this? Obviously, he was the star of the movie, but he had like 0 soccer skills. 0. And having him, I think if I remember correctly, he was the one who put in the cross that Pele did the bicycle kick with to win the match, if I remember correctly. But yeah, this cast, Pele, Bobby Moore, Ozzy Ardiles, Paul Van Himst, Kaz Dana, Halvar Thoresen, Mike Summerby, Co Prinz, Russell Osman, John Wark, Soren Lindstedt, Kevin O'Callahan. Then you had Max von Sydow, who was the major in that movie. Gary Waldhorn was the Mueller, the coach. But yeah, so yes, you should watch this movie. And so, courtesy of our friends at IMDb, here's some more history of that particular movie, Victory or Escape to Victory, depending on where you're watching it from. Inspired by an actual series of games in Kyiv during the German occupation of the city, several members of Dynamo Kyiv, the top football team in Ukraine, found work in a bakery, formed a football team with other bakery employees, began playing in a new league against teams supported by the Ukrainian puppet government and German military. After they beat a team from a local German Air Force base, the league was disbanded. Several of the team members arrested by the Gestapo, and 4 were executed. Sylvester Stallone started soccer training on weekends after weekends off during the filming of Nighthawks. Underrated movie, by the way. Stallone received training from Gordon Banks. Initially, Stallone paid little attention to Banks' advice as he didn't think the training was necessary. Recklessly threw himself around on the first day of filming of the match. Eventually, he hit the ground so hard he dislocated his shoulder, broke one of his ribs. When he came back, he paid more attention to Banks, still sustained minor injuries over the course of filming, including another broken rib. The experience had been harder than fighting in the Rocky movies. Michael Caine admitted that the only reason he agreed to make the movie was the opportunity to work alongside Pele. Smart man. Apart from acting in the movie, Pele also assisted in the choreography of all of the playing actions in the final, in the climax. Ozzy Ardiles said about Michael Caine and his soccer skills, awful, when he couldn't even run 20 yards. Not a surprise. Sylvester Stallone broke one of his fingers trying to stop Pele from scoring a goal. Man, you just got to learn. The rest of the Allied players, actual soccer stars, some of them performed the tricks for which they were famous with Pele with the bicycle kick. Sly Stallone lost about 40 pounds for the movie because he didn't want the prisoner of war to look like an Olympic boxer. Trying to see if there's anything else involving Pele. 18 international professional football players of the time in acting and sports action stunts. Pele was allied Trinidadian Corporal Luis Fernandez. And I know that we will all continue to remember that as well. Let's see. Yep, 47 at the time of filming, Michael Caine was far too old to be playing a supposedly current West Ham and England player. Even he thought it was a strange bit of casting, nonetheless agreed to be in the movie because it would give him a chance to meet Pele, who was 40 during filming and had retired a couple of years ahead of time. And John Huston hated the movie. He says he only did it for the paycheck. But, could be worse things to do when it comes to getting a paycheck and about, doing a movie and hanging out with a lot of soccer's great players of the 70s and 80s at the time. But yeah. So that's your rundown of escape or victory or escape to victory, depending on where you found it. But yeah, when Pele does a bicycle kick and you get Max von Sydow, who was the heavy in the movie, to stand up and applaud as the Allied guys are trying to beat the Nazi squad of soccer players. Then yeah, but yeah, sadly, we're going to be just talking about Pele like this. We won't have Pele's interactions, not just on the soccer side of things and the sports side of things, but on the world side of things. But now we'll just have to carry on with what we remember going forward. But yeah, so Pele lost to us at the age of 82, far too young and far too soon. But what I wanted to do today was to continue our discussion about 2022. And I wanted to get your thoughts on your match of the year, your players of the year, who you enjoyed watching grow as a player in 2022, and what you enjoyed about the game in 2022. Like I said, this is the 2022 show, last show of 2022. We'll start talking 2023 on Monday. And with that show, it'll be New Year's resolutions, anticipations, what you're looking forward to, that kind of stuff. So we'll look forward starting on Monday. Today, we'll look backward. And also, note of programming. Thursdays with Nico on a Friday will be on at 3 o'clock on the network here on Twitch and be rolled over as a podcast later. But we'll get Nico's thoughts on Eber and Christian Roldan and the Western Conference and the World Competition and all of those things. But what I wanted to do was catch up with you guys and find out what your matches of the year were, who your player of the year was, your MVP of MVPs, who you enjoyed watching grow their game, those kinds of things. Did you take a field trip that you really enjoyed? Those kinds of things. That's what I wanted to wrap the show with. Obviously, we've got gossip, rumor, and innuendo and matches later today and things like that. We'll get into that late in hour number 2. But Will, hit me with your matches of the year. Go for it. And everybody, matches of the year, what you enjoyed, who you enjoyed, MVP of MVPs, who you enjoyed watching grow. That's what I wanted to get into with you guys this morning as well. Atlanta United category for Will, the 2-1 win over Seattle, the Gutman late winner, and the dog pile. That dog pile is a photo that I'm going to, if I can find a place to put it here in the office, that dog pile photo on the Gutman, the late winner, where he just wound up and fired. That was some cool stuff. Non-Atlanta category, yep, World Cup final. I think we're going to get a lot of that one this morning, as we should. Absolute craziness for a full more than 120 minutes. So you're probably pushing 2.5 hours, 150, including pregame, intermissions, all that stuff. One of the best 150 minutes you could have ever spent this entire year. The absolute craziness that was attached to the World Cup final. Will, you've got 2 good ones. The Gutman late winner, the World Cup final, determining who's the world's best. So it's the Seattle game for you, Emilio. Completely understand that. Was there any other matches that you watched other than so World Cup final? I know is going to get a lot of votes. That's fine. I'll give you one that's off the board for me. The USL League One final. the USL League One final for me, it was great to see that environment in Statesboro and see South Georgia Tormenta grow the way that they have and win a championship and be the first domestic team to have both a men's and a women's championship in the same season. Having the Tormenta USLW team go to Minneapolis, knock off Minnesota Aurora in their barn in extra time, in added time, in AET, the extra 30 minutes, and see two trophies come home to Statesboro. For me, being there for the League One final, in that game, to see League One, continue to grow the way that it has in the markets that it has. So for South Georgia Tormenta to win a title on the USLW side and the USL League One side, for me, since I was there in person, very, very cool stuff for me. So that's the one that's away from Atlanta United and the World Cup. So I'll throw the USL League One final in there for me. Knicks, probably the season opener against Sporting was the peak. Kind of only went down there from here, albeit with a few other highlights. What other games stuck with you, Knicks? What other games outside of Atlanta United? Because I figure Atlanta United is going to be a part of this discussion. So what other matches with other teams did you enjoy watching? Like I said, I figure much like Will in the non-Atlanta United category, it's going to be the World Cup final. Anything else that came across your bow that really worked this year for you as a fan? Nick, such promise from Caleb Wiley in the match. Glad he got so much field time, even if it was a struggle at times. Yeah, but as you're a young player, you're going to grow. And, to get that moment for Caleb Wiley late in the match against Sporting Kansas City, in front of your family, and to get the goal that really salted it away when everybody was healthy. Great moment for Caleb, great moment for the city, great moment for Atlanta United in 2020 and 2022. Burned. Barcelona Femenil at Real Madrid World Champions League, March 30. Yes, a packed house. 91,500 attendance. Changed the trajectory of women's football in Europe. Unbelievable atmosphere. Best of the year for you. Completely and totally agree. And I hope, as you've posited, that it does change the trajectory of women's football in Europe, because it shows that it's viable, and it shows when you have rivalry and invest in El Clasico Femenil, that you can have 91,000 in a building and have it be that way. Absolutely cool stuff. Knicks, the Champions League run by Real Madrid was great. Some great matches in that run. Will, random match category. See, and this is what I like to see. Random match category. That's what we're building on here. Either the Forward Madison at Northern Colorado match, the first had ridiculous goals and 8 yellows. The second had 3 Northern Colorado Hailstorm players sent off. Somewhere in the two, a coach was sent off. Was it? Did Zayed get sent off for Northern Colorado? So Forward Madison and Northern Colorado. I love that. I love that you've pulled that one out of the hat. For both of them in USL League One. That's some fantastic stuff. All right. So now that you've got me inquisitive. All right. So stats. What I need is the matchups of let's see. So clubs. Let's go from the Forward Madison. Let's go from the Forward Madison point of view here. Look at the schedule. All right. So looking at the schedule, Forward Madison, trying to see when Forward Madison and the Hail. Okay. So first time they met was at Sonny Lubick Field, Canvas Stadium, July 5th. So you had the match against Forward Madison, 2-1. Forward Madison wins at Northern Colorado. Then the return match was a 1-1 draw at Breeze Stevens on July 30. And I'm trying to see, or was it the August 20 match, the 3-1 for Forward Madison and Hailstorm there. So we had 3 matches. So which two of the 3, or were all 3 just this crazy? So, all right. So Ford Madison. I need like the individual. Man, I need the individual breakdown because I'm going to the went to the league website. And all right, so went to the league website and gave me the grid and it showed me the 3 matches. Okay, so schedule. All right, so results. All right, so I need results, but I need statistics now. Harumph. I'm not getting any help. Ignore the one in Madison. Okay, so we'll ignore the one in Madison. So the 2 that were on the road in the state of Colorado. So the 2-1 match July 5th. And then the 3-1 match on August the 20th. Okay, so those are the ones that we're looking at here. And so now, all right, so if we can all search this through together, let's workshop this. Forward, Madison, Northern Colorado, hailstorm. All right, so Forward, Madison, Northern Colorado, hailstorm. Okay, we can go to SofaScore. Let's do that. All right. So the 3-1 match, you had, okay. So the 3-1 match, as we work our way forward, you had, oh, wow. Okay. So you had red card Leo Falla when the match was tied at 1 in the 38th. You had red card Trevor Ammon in the 83rd, red card Robert Cornwall in the 87th. So they were down to 8. Northern Colorado was down to 8 when they were trailing in that match. Okay. So I could definitely see that in Northern Colorado as a favorite in that one. So yeah, Cornwall. And by the way, here's your SofaScore numbers. Leo Falla with his red had a 5.7. Cornwall had a 5.6. Trevor Ammon had a 5.5. So I guess that's what happens when you get a red card. So yeah, 5.5 in that match on the 3-1 match that was on August the 20th. So yeah, I could definitely, yeah, that one's crazy. I'll have to go back and watch that one. So any match that Ford Madison played in Fort Collins, Colorado area, or as they were trailing, as they were traveling the state of Colorado, trying to figure out what home that was going to be for the Northern Colorado hailstorm. So yes, definitely like that. Will, I like that stuff. What other random games, guys, everybody, what random off the wall games stuck with you in 2022? Will, well done. I like that. That's and getting us to all workshop the magic of those particular matches. 3 red cards for Northern Colorado in that match. They lose 3-1. They finished with 8. Oh, wow. Okay, that's a good one. So once again, reminders. Matches that stuck with you for whatever reason. Obviously, your matches of the year, whether it's Atlanta United, your favorite home team, your favorite hometown team, if you're outside of the market here in the Southeast, off the wall ones like Will with the random match category. Well done. Who did you enjoy see grow in 2022 as a player? And, who were your favorite players to watch? Those kinds of things. So the moments that stuck with you here in 2022, that's what we're wrapping up 2022 with this week. And like I said, we'll start looking forward next week. This is about 2022 and backward for the remainder of the show today. Let's get into juice boxes and stuff like that because there is gossip, rumor, and innuendo and things left unsaid. So we're going to keep an eye on all of that this morning. And let's take a peek at matches going on right now and juice boxes and all that kind of stuff. As always, traditionally right now, as we're going here, early on, it is Eastern Europe, it is Asia, it is North Africa and the Middle East that are going on right now. That pretty much takes us through the early matches. La Liga's got an early match at 11 o'clock with Getafe and Mallorca. juice boxes or champagne bottles, since we're getting close to the beginning of the year, they pretty much have the match a toss-up. Portugal's going on. You can probably catch that on Gold TV, and you can get that at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. So subscribe to Fanatis, and I do, and I get to watch all the matches on like Gold TV and Teise. And if you want to watch what's going on in Argentina, Teise is the place to do it. So recommended to add to all of your other subscriptions. Go to Fanatis and subscribe to that one. La Liga's got 1:15 matchups. Celta de Vigo is a favorite at home against Sevilla. Cadiz is a favorite at home against Almeria. Action in the championship at 2:45. Birmingham's a favorite at home against Hull. They should be. Norwich is a minus 152 hosting Reading at Carrow Road, the first match under a caretaker after the firing of a manager. Stoke is a dog at home against division-leading Burnley, who comes in at a plus 108. Swansea is a favorite at home at a minus 104 as Watford comes to visit it as a plus 291. You've got League One and League Two. You've got lower divisions. You've got Premier League at 245. West Ham and Brentford. West Ham is a favorite at minus 105. Brentford on the road is a plus 292. Your draw is basically a plus 275. 3 o'clock, Liverpool and Leicester. And Nick says his hands full. Liverpool's a minus 345. Your draw is a plus 515. Leicester is a plus 949. Lower divisions in other countries in Europe going on at 3 o'clock, 3:30. La Liga, Valladolid, and Real Madrid. Real Madrid's minus 200. The Copa por Mexico is at 9 o'clock. Cruz Azul and Chivas Guadalajara. Chivas is a plus 138. Cruz Azul is a plus 181. Your draw is a plus 223. A-League women are at 11 o'clock tonight if you choose to stay up and watch all of that activity. So that's your juice boxes for the day. And let's get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo. And, it kind of seems like a lot of teams are done with their transfers, and the transfer window hasn't really opened yet. Wow, there's no gossip today. No gossip today, at least in the BBC. So we'll go to our friends at Sky and go through the papers. How can there not be any gossip? Seriously? There's got to be gossip. There's absolutely got to be gossip here. All right, so let's go into the papers, and avoiding the 3 and the 4 letter papers as we always do. Arsenal considering making an improved offer from Mykhailo Mudryk after seeing their £45 million bid rejected. Like I said, Dario Serna, the sporting director at Shakhtar Donetsk, is looking for something in the 65 range, even though he has said that he initially wanted to do something in the 100 range. Figured if he can get 65 million cash, he'd take it. Chelsea, growing optimism. N'Golo Kante will sign a new contract at Stamford Bridge, not leaving the summer when his deal expires. PSG is interested. Leicester set to get 3 players next month after missing out on a host of transfer targets in the summer. Avoiding the 3 and the 4 letter papers. The Telegraph, Erling Haaland says his extraordinary scoring spree at Manchester City is down in part to the club's medical staff fixing his body. Okay. Chief exec at Shakhtar Donetsk has admitted the club is open to selling Mykhailo Mudryk next month. That's Sergei Paukin, despite rejecting an initial offer from Arsenal for the winger. Benfica have insisted they have no interest in selling Chelsea target Enzo Fernandez, one of the stars of the World Cup in the January transfer window. And going back to what we were talking about yesterday with Steve Cooper and his appearance on NBC Sports with their festive fixtures coverage, says the club has to sign players who will make a difference in their fight for Premier League survival. Guardian, Leicester manager Brendan Rodgers looking for a winger, a left back, and a center back in the January transfer window. Knicks, I wonder if you're going to get what your targets are, considering the amount of money that you've had to leverage future monies against current activity. So we'll see what kind of money that Top gives Brendan Rodgers to invest. Daily Express, Newcastle's Boxing Day match could not be witnessed by the vast majority of football fans in Saudi Arabia as the country's government continues to block the BN signal, and they control access to the Premier League. New gated perimeter fencing could be erected at Wembley as a part of the Football Association's response to the chaotic scenes at the Euro 2020 final. We saw what that did. Jurgen Klopp at the Daily Mirror has confirmed Liverpool are currently in talks with Bobby Firmino about his future, but admitted the signing of Cody Gakpo has no impact on the club's decision. Evening Standard, Fulham expected to make a formal offer for Arsenal defender Cedric Suarez in coming days. Jorginho has received the offer of a new contract at Chelsea, according to the player's agent. Hakim Ziyech is attracting renewed interest from AC Milan with an option to buy, likely to be included in the loan deal. Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham, costly options for Chelsea, but now seen as priorities. Rangers are tracking St. Mirren's Australian star Keanu Backus. Celtic have fallen in love with Korean midfielder Hyuk Kyu, but have made a sizable transfer offer for the Busan iPark star. So that's your word from the papers. And Celtic has also signed Japanese Player of the Year Tomoki Iwata from Ange Postecoglou's former club, Yokohama Marinos. This weekend is Old Firm, and so when Jarrett comes back, we'll talk to him about Old Firm and what to look at. We've obviously also got a lot of things to look at for other matches this weekend, the juice boxes, and all of that kind of stuff. We'll get into the big matchups across all of the international leagues. We'll get into all those numbers as well. But remember, as we start hour number 2, once again, remember topics today. We're wrapping up 2022. Want your memories? Want the stuff that's going to stick with you? Want to know who your MVP of MVP was? Your matches of the year, whether it's Atlanta United, random, doesn't matter. Let me know what sticks with you from the year 2022, players you enjoyed watch grow and see their games grow, those kinds of things. We're wrapping up 2022 today. We'll get into 2023. New Year's resolutions, whether it's personal or soccer related or what have you, everything you're looking forward to in 2023. That's on Monday, because that's when the calendar changes, and that reminds me I need to buy a 2023 desk calendar because I don't have one. All right, here's your viewing for the weekend. Today, 2:45, West Ham and Brentford. That's on both the USA and Universo. ESPN Deportes has the triple header in La Liga: Getafe, Mallorca, Celta de Vigo, Sevilla, Real Valladolid, and Real Madrid. Gold TV, as we figured, has Sporting Braga and Benfica at 4:15. ESPN Plus has La Liga Santander. It is Getafe, Mallorca, Celta de Vigo, Sevilla, Cadiz, Almeria, Valladolid, Real Madrid. Peacock has Liverpool and Leicester City at 3 o'clock. On your Saturday, 12:30, NBC, big NBC, has Brighton and Arsenal. USA has the lead up, Wolves, Manchester United, 7:30, for those of you that want to get up that early. Newcastle and Leeds at 10. ESPN Deportes has La Liga, Barcelona, Espanyol at 8, followed by Villarreal and Valencia at 10:15. Universo has all three of the matches from the Premier League that we've been discussing on NBC and USA. Peacock has the other 4. Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Southampton, Man City, Everton. Those are on at 10 o'clock. Peacock also has Brighton and Arsenal at 12:30. ESPN Plus has La Liga, triple header, 8, 10, and 10:15. Sunday, BN and Espanyol have your Ligue 1 triple header. Monaco, Brest, Lyon, Clermont, Lens, and PSG. Remember, Neymar will not be in the match for PSG on New Year's Day because he got a red card. If he is not at home in Brazil, I will be disappointed that he's not celebrating the New Year. Peacock has Tottenham and Aston Villa at 9. Forest and Chelsea is at 11:30. On the Plus, the Championship, Blackburn and Cardiff at 7. Blackpool and Sunderland at 10. Blackpool lost to Luton Town yesterday. As the chaos continues in the Championship, we'll go over that in just a bit. So that is your weekend viewing habits across the board. Let's get into juice boxes for Saturday, and we will go over all of that activity. So tomorrow, which follows today, December 31st, obviously there's a lot of early stuff going on. Wolves under Julian Lopetegui, match number 2. Manchester United's a minus 109 going up against Wolves, who's a plus 318 at the Molineux. Also on the board, Scotland lower division stuff. Barcelona's a minus 476 at home at 8 o'clock in the morning against Espanyol. Also, Premier League numbers for the 10 o'clocks on Saturday. Crystal Palace, slight favorite on the road at the Vitality at a plus 160. Fulham, favorite at Craven Cottage at a plus 104 against Southampton. Manchester City's a minus 714 as Everton comes to town. Newcastle's a minus 217 as Leeds comes to town at a plus 600. Also, going through La Liga, Real Sociedad a favorite at home against Osasuna, Villarreal a favorite at home against Valencia. Both of those are at 10-15, as we've said. Brighton and Arsenal. Arsenal's a plus 112. Heading to the Amex, Brighton's a plus 250. And it is a pretty vacant slate New Year's Eve day. And pretty much a gap from, let's see, when's the last match? 12:30. So Brighton and Arsenal is a part of the last matches of the day, East Coast time. Nothing until 11 o'clock at night, and that's A-League with Newcastle and Sydney. We'll have news. I got some A-League news we need to get into in just a little bit. So New Year's Day, you've got Blackburn a favorite at home against Cardiff at a plus 138. Spurs at a minus 149 at home against Aston Villa, no surprise. Monaco a favorite at home in Ligue 1. Lorient a favorite on the road at Angers. Not a favorite at home on the minus side against Auxerre. And Toulouse a favorite at home against Ajaccio. Championship, Sunderland's a favorite on the road at Blackpool. Coventry City's a favorite at home at plus 102 hosting Bristol City. Luton Town is a favorite on the road at Huddersfield. Huddersfield's at the bottom of the table. Millwall's a minus 161 at home hosting Rotherham. And you have all the 10 o'clock starts on Saturday morning. Nothing changes there. Lyon's a minus 204 at home against Claremont. Nottingham Forest a plus 445 at City Ground hosting Chelsea at a minus 150. PSG's a plus 121 without Neymar and without Lionel Messi as they go to Lens. And then that takes care of everything on your on January 1st, on your Sunday. So that gets us through the weekend. A couple of things out of the Guardian that I noticed and wanted to put on the floor this morning. And as you click through all of these things that you're trying to sit here and go, okay, I want to talk about this, and then I want to talk about this, and then you end up with a whole lot of stuff blocking your path as you want to try to talk about things. Police have charged 32 people over the Melbourne A-League pitch invasion and are searching for 11 more. This is from the AP in Australia. Grown to 32. About 150 spectators stormed the Amy Park derby between Melbourne Victory and Melbourne City a couple weeks ago, injuring goalkeeper Tom Glover, ref Alex King, a TV cameraman, and 2 security guards. One man believed to have been involved in the clash left the country shortly after the match, according to Victoria Police. Police said the 33-year-old was already banned from A-League games for 10 years, left on a flight to Europe in the days afterwards. I hope they find him and can track him down. And I'd also like to know how he was allowed back in the building. And I know that it comes down to tracking and how you sit there and figure out how folks can go in and how folks don't go in, those kinds of things. How was this individual allowed to come into another match in the A-League? I know that Bam probably could help us out with this, but how was he allowed back in the first place? And okay, great, track him down. Police have said that the gentleman would be arrested when he arrives back in Australia, would be interviewed over discharging a missile and violent disorder. Authorities are still searching for another man allegedly responsible for throwing a pole at a specialist police officer. The 32 people charged, facing a string of offenses, including discharging a missile, assault, violent disorder, criminal damage, and riotous behavior. Those facing the most serious crimes will be referred to Football Australia. 5 others have been cautioned or fined. Police said about $150,000 worth of damage was caused to Amy Park during the invasion. About 80 flares or fireworks were set off. Poles and bottles were thrown at police on the field. 10 of the alleged pitch invaders had received bans from Football Australia. Melbourne Victory had been hit with the strongest sanctions in the sport's history over the chaos. Blocked from selling tickets to home matches. Fans can't attend away games. Those interim sanctions, and that's what they are, interim sanctions, in place until 15th of January. Further punishments could include points deductions and fines. And I know that the idea of punishing a team, you got to punish them in the pocketbook. But at the same time, I think that Football Australia needs to be held accountable for having these individuals finding ways back into stadia so they can, and if these folks have been banned, they somehow found ways back in. And I know you've got to get into technology and things like that to try to make it happen. But, even if it gets to the point where you've got to have wanted posters in front of each and every single gate at each and every single arena that you play in. I know it's difficult to do. I know it's difficult to enforce. But frankly, something's got to be done because stupidity continues. And you've got to find ways to stop stupidity. I know that you're trying to stop thousands of people, from going into gates and try to figure out what to do that kind of stuff. But when you find them, the easiest thing for me is when you find them, you charge them to the fullest extent of the law. Fullest extent of the law. Bottom line. And yeah, I know it's great that this 33-year-old individual that is already banned, he was on a 10-year ban, found his way into the building, and then he leaves on a flight to Europe. They said so. Football Australia says he's arrested when he arrives back in the country, interviewed over discharging a missile and violent disorder. Throw the book at him. If he's found to be the individual that was part and parcel to all of the stuff that we've seen in those scenes at Amy Park, throw the book at him. Charge him with what you can. Obviously, have these individuals pay the restitution and they need to be held responsible for the futures of the individuals that were injured. Think about it. Tom Glover, and it was nasty when you got stuff thrown at Tom Glover, and hit him on the side of the face, treated for a concussion, concussion symptoms. What you've done is you've damaged a man's livelihood. Center Ref Alex King, a TV camera, security guards, Tom Glover. You got civil suits waiting too. Yeah, I know, Michael, and that's the thing. How do you do it? You can't imagine a stadium ban ever being effectively enforced. True. Biggest question for me is how do you do it? How do you do it? And I know that if you have individuals that always find their way in, it's great you love your team the way that you do, but it should not allow you to act irresponsibly. Yeah. Wiley, that's a good idea, but once again, you're probably talking about 1/3 to 1/4 the amount of people that are heading into a building. Wiley wants facial recognition like the lawyer that got kicked out of the Rockettes. Yeah, because I remember that. But yeah, Michael, that's the thing. How do you enforce a stadium ban effectively? We can all think about ways that we've all, seen folks try to sneak into venues and things like that. But yeah, it might have to be something like what Wiley's talking about with the facial recognition. But once again, you're talking about a closed-in venue with limited access points. And then, what do you do in turn to try to sit there and go, okay, here's the deal. You're not allowed here. And we figured out who you are. And that's the key here. It's like, how do you do it? And that's the thing. But in lieu of figuring out ways to do the facial recognition over 30 or 40,000 folks instead of 5 like they had with the Rockettes, what do you do? That's the key here. Other than arrest people and throw the book at them, I don't know what a realistic solution is. We need to find one. Find out who it is, throw the book at them, make sure that they're responsible civilly for any kind of damages or anything like that. And that's the That's the key in this for me. Yeah, I know. And Rich, I felt like I had to break out both layers this morning. So, yeah, you can go to our custom ink store and get all this gear, by the way, all of our SDH NWO stuff. Yeah, you can go to our custom ink store. You can go to soccerdownhere.net, go to the website, click through, get the gear. But yeah, I was just in an NWO mood this morning. So yeah, NWO for life. All right, so let me put that to the floor. How, if you were in charge of like global security, how would you stop things like this? Because they need to stop. You're in charge of global security. How do you stop it? I'll put that out there this morning as another. Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, for facial recognition, 50, 60,000 people. Yeah, it is a logistical nightmare. So that's what's like, what do you do? Other than throw the book at somebody, charge them criminally, charge them civilly, make sure that they're eligible for restitution for damaging careers, things like that on an individual basis. I don't know what you do, but that's the key. I know you can track tickets and do all your QR codes and all that kind of stuff. And anybody that's associated with bringing in those individuals that are, it's like, okay, you got a friend who's been banned. Hey, yeah, come on in. We'll do what we need to do. And you can come in anyway. Those folks need to be just as held responsible, need to be held just as responsible as the individuals who were banned. And so it is a multi-layer, multi-level thing that you've got to figure out and how to address. And that's the key to all of this. Two men actually came forward and from Mike Heitner at The Guardian. Two of the 9 men initially sought by Victoria police made themselves known to investigators. Those images included the dude that was holding the bucket of sand, another holding a lit flare, pursuing possible charges against any person that invaded the pitch. You're looking at, so you're the horrified, irritated, and angry chief executive of Football Australia had earlier promised swift action to identify and sanction those responsible. Melbourne Victory will be issued with a show cause notice to explain the actions of their club supporters as a part of a three-pronged line of investigation into the incident. What happened with the game? What happens with the result? Second is a show cause letter from Melbourne Victory, received as soon as possible. We won't close the door to a show cause letter to City. Third is the focus of the investigation and will be against the individuals who are seeking to name, identify, and sanction, looking to weed out the small element that infiltrates our game. This is a direct quote. Infiltrates our game and tries to ruin it for the people who love it. Okay. But how do you stop it? How do you stop it for the 11 gazillion folks that can go into a game instead of the 5,000 like the indoor venue where facial recognition might work? But how do you stop it? That's the key. There was another story in The Guardian. We talked about how folks, they, sometimes get impatient with, with folks when it comes to trying to figure out, okay, how do we survive a season? And there was one story. Yeah, here we go. This was the other. This is probably not how you do it. League Two in England sacked their manager, Matthew Etherington, after 32 days in charge. It's the two-pronged thing. Former Tottenham winger in his first senior management role had 3 matches during his tenure, a win and 2 losses, leaving the club 20th in the league. It was taken over by Wagme United. Club's second permanent manager of the season, replaced the first one who'd only been there for 4 months. Had an interim, led the team to a month and a half, left the club when the other manager was named that just recently got sacked, who had only been there for 32 days. It was a day after their striker was sold to the team at the bottom of the table, so fans are pissed. And the striker didn't feature under the manager that just got fired. Decision taken out of his hands. The sale caused fellow Crawley striker Kwesi Appiah, who's on loan, to remark on Twitter, the club account surely had been hacked after the announcement of the sale had been made. So you've got a sale, multiple managers, manager not playing the striker, striker gets sold. So, yeah, it sounds like folks are trying to cover their bottom line. Damn the results. Chris Galley, CEO, Crawley Town. It's become clear to all involved parties that this partnership is not the right fit to carry the club forward and achieve our goals. As a result, we mutually decided to move in a different direction. We miss the coaches well in their future endeavors. Crawley Town Supporters Association called for a meeting with the club's owners. We'll continue to push for answers and transparency from the club on behalf of the fans. Good luck on that. And, so Crawley Town, they're in trouble in League Two, fourth division of football in England. And Crawley is in 20th. They are 6 points clear of the drop going into the National League that Wrexham is in. Gillingham have lost 4 of their last 5. They're at 24th of 24. They are 3 points adrift, and they've only scored 7 goals in 22 matches. They've only won twice. They've lost 12. So Gillingham is at the bottom of League Two, but they got a striker that comes from a team that's above them in the standings that just had a sale. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's the kind of stuff that you're going to get here in January with the transfer window and things like that. So yeah, literally that's what you're staring at. So MLS, and like I said, I want to get into a lot of this later today with Nico Moreno. And Hebert is officially official, by the way. So Hebert to Seattle from NYC, officially traded, and it's $400,000 in GAM, $150,000 in conditional GAM. $400,000 split evenly across the next 2 seasons, so $200 in 23, $200 in 24. NYC can pocket an additional $150,000 in performance-based GAM. Won't require an international roster spot. That's big. Under contract through 23 with an option for 24. Craig Weibel gave you the standard quote, and it was 30 goals, 7 assists in 90 matches for NYC since coming from Rijeka in Croatia in 2019. Tore his ACL in 2020, returned late in 21, helping NYC win MLS Cup, and then 2022 Campeones. And then sporting director David Lee had his standard quote that you get. And so Hebert now adds to the depth with Raul Ruidiaz, because remember, Seattle has, in addition to everything else going on, they've got Club World Cup in Morocco in 6 weeks. Club World Cup in Morocco. So you need more firepower, and you got that in Hebert. Last season, it was Rusnak. This year, it's Hebert. Seattle, Craig Weibel, not messing around for the second year in a row. NYC, once again, future is uncertain for a lot of folks, and this was when Jarrett and I got into the discussion yesterday about the Eastern Conference, what we're looking at here. Alexander Cayens at center back, Sean Johnson, both out of contract. They're both free agents right now. Santi Rodriguez was on loan from Uruguay's Montevideo City Torque. Maxi Morales went home to Argentina, signed with Racing Club. So this really does mean that the investment in the youth that they brought in either through development or looking at young talented players is what NYC is going for. You're looking at Talis Magno. Whereas in Seattle, you're looking at Hebert, Ruidiaz, Freddie Montero. That's what you're staring at right now. Once again, not messing around. Seattle. Well, like I said, we'll talk to Nico Moreno about 3 o'clock this afternoon. 3 o'clock Eastern here on Twitch. Rolled over as a podcast later on. Chicago's made a couple of moves, one outgoing, one inbound, and it's a swap, kind of, sort of, with FC Lugano. Fire bring in winger Marin Haile Selassie and send defender Jean Espinosa to Lugano. So one in, one out. Haile Selassie is for 2023, includes a purchase option. The Switzerland native will occupy an international spot. And, once again, remember that the Fire and Lugano are both owned by Joe Mansueto, the owner of the Chicago Fire. So you'll have this kind of player movement. Same thing with Joey Saputo with his Italian properties and things like that. So you'll have this kind of sideways movement. George Heitz, pleased to welcome Marin to the Fire and integrating him in with the group. 7 goals, 5 assists in 40 matches for Lugano. Scored in their Swiss Cup final victory over St. Gallen in 22. Former Swiss Youth International, joined in December 2021 from Neuchâtel Xamax, came through the academy at FC Zurich. So now he joins the wingers with Chris Mueller, Jairo Torres, Big Shaq. Chicago's pursuing a DP striker. And they're going to have their second season under Ezra Hendrickson. Jean Espinosa goes, and they mutually parted ways with him with Chicago Fire, but he goes to Lugano instead once the European transfer window opens in 2 days. So after transferring from Ecuador's SC Aucas, 1 assist, 39 games, 11 starts. Two caps for his senior national team featured at the U20 World Cup in 2019. And so now, as Espinosa goes, Chicago's down to their their 2 first-choice right backs, and they're down their first 2, so they're without their first choice 2 right backs from the 2022 season. If I get my modifiers correct, Boris Sekulic is out of contract as well. So, Dan, may you enjoy your long weekend. Before you go, 2022, what do you remember? What do you remember fondly about it? Matches, doesn't have to be Atlanta United. Can be off the wall matches that you really enjoyed, players you enjoyed seeing grow. We're saving the 23 stuff until Monday and beyond. So we're saving the 2023 stuff. The looking ahead, we're saved to Monday. What about 2022 will stick with you? MVP of MVPs, matches, whether local, international, or random. Will had a great random one with the Madison Northern Colorado burgeoning rivalry in USL League One. So what's sticking with you for 2022? That's the random question this morning that I had as we go. But no, keep an eye on things for the January transfer window, and we'll see who moves, who doesn't move. LAFC signed Honduran defender Daniel Maldonado on loan. Nashville SC signed Lawrence White. And keep an eye on that one. FC Dallas signed defender Giovanni Jesus from Cruzeiro in Brazil. NYCFC added Tony Alfaro in free agency. So there's stuff to keep an eye on here for the foreseeable future. Jared Smith rejoining in hour number 2.
Yep.
And this weekend is Old Firm, is it not?
It is. Well, it's Monday. It's Hogmanay.
Okay.
For New Year's.
Okay. We were going through what we were staring at, and it appears that once again,
subjected people to enough Scotland yesterday, but whatever.
But Celtic brought in the Japanese Player of the Year.
They did. They're also looking at bringing in a Korean striker. I wonder if they're moving off Japan, which apparently they're not the only ones doing that now, because I think Hearts is also bringing in a Japanese player. Hey, as much as we talk about, as much as we've spent so much time talking about, for instance, that parts of Argentina were kind of an untapped market. Asia is its own untapped market where they're finding, you're going in there and you're finding value much more efficiently than you would have expected to find. You're spending less money getting production, getting a Dyson Maeda, who was at the World Cup and did pretty damn well for himself, scored in the knockout round game.
Yeah.
For I think under $5 million. That's what they paid for him. I mean, you're getting good value there, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking to maximize what you can off of the value you spend, and it seems like you're getting that in parts of Asia. So I'm curious to see if that continues with not just them, but with other clubs continuing to shop there directly instead of relying on smaller clubs to make those moves and then signing them for more money when then you have to buy it from somebody in Portugal or Eastern Europe, and then you have to pay a sell on, all that jazz.
All right, so 2022, what will stick with you in 2022 match wise? And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be like Atlanta United based. It can be random. And Will gave a great random this morning, and it was the burgeoning rivalry with Northern Colorado Hailstorm and Forward Madison. And it was a game. There were two matches. It was the two matches in Colorado where one of the matches ended up with Hailstorm finishing with 8. They lost 3-1, but they finished with 8 players. So it seems that Forward Madison, it seems like our Flamingos and the Hailstorm are having a burgeoning rivalry that included 3 red cards for Northern Colorado this year. What matches?
We need that.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good thing. That's awesome to see. I want to see the pettiness feed into all of you. Your suffering must be more severe.
Mm-hmm.
And Forward Madison, as we have gone over repeatedly, doing a great job of handling the marketing side of it and now getting, I think, more of the production side of it. So good on them for that. And then you build that rivalry out. You want something like, of the many things that stuck with me this year. You want something from a good local angle as opposed to the disappointment that was Atlanta United season. Is look what happened in Statesboro.
That's what I mentioned.
Statesboro, Tormenta winning both the USL League One championship and the women's championship.
Yeah.
And in the process, defeating a Minnesota Aurora team that had not lost.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Aurora's only loss of the season was in the final at the hands of Tormenta.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an absolutely awesome. It's an absolutely awesome moment and an awesome year for that club. On the men's side of things, you win USL League One, then you win the championship there. On top of that, you make an outstanding run. Like, look, this was a weird year for
Yes,
US Open Cup.
Yeah.
We get a team making the run into the finals from USL. We get multiple teams from USL League One taking scalps.
Yeah.
Like, it was an awesome year for the US Open Cup. It's something that we talked about yesterday with USL, with the issues with trying to figure out how they're going to do officiating going next year. Well, they got a lot to build off of. And a fun final. Had a fun season. I want to see what it looks like for them next year.
Yeah.
You're not going to have the MLS ties. USL is going to be its own thing, and I hope that people are, even though Atlanta United 2 is not going to be in there, even though, even if you're like listening in from somewhere not Atlanta and you have a twos team and they might be moving to MLS Next Pro, hope you'll still find time to go watch USL games.
Mm-hmm.
They're a lot of fun. A lot of really fun players in that league, a lot of really fun teams in that league, a lot of good rivalries. So hopefully everyone is still able to find time to consume that product as well. And then, of course, USL League One. I guess the rest of it for me, what sticks out is it was so weird with the World Cup being in December, but I don't know that we could have asked for a better World Cup overall. From an American's perspective, yeah, you would have rather have beaten the Dutch. You'd rather not put yourself with your heart in your throat in the third group game.
Mm-hmm.
Although that feels like a feature, not so much a bug. But you had really entertaining knockout round games. You had some drunken group stage games, and you had what I maintain is the best final in history.
Mm-hmm.
And not even just soccer. Probably the best for my money, the best one-off championship game I have ever seen in any sport.
Yeah.
The kind of thing that will live on, like everything about it was perfect, unless you're French.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, but as a neutral viewer, I mean, you get the man on the doorstep of immortality dragging his team at times,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get this back and forth chaotic affair that creates such an amazing moment on the field. One of the best World Cups we could have ever asked for. Off the field, an absolute mess of geopolitical nonsense. And then, I mean, there's a lot to unpack with it because you also have the tragedy with Grant Wall passing away. There's a lot to unpack with it. It's I don't know that it does it justice just to discuss the World Cup as just on the field because there's a lot to dissect off the field, good and bad. Some of it really bad.
Yes.
Um, as far as the on the field product though goes, it was wonderful in that respect.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at all of that, and you mentioned League One just to kind of work our way forward. I mean, League One is adding 2 franchises. They're going to have 12 teams. I know that you're still working on your Western footprint, and you're going to get that in future years in Spokane and Santa Barbara. But
God, you imagine like those early spring, late fall games in Spokane are gonna be grim. Y'all. I mean, I don't know if you like Spokane's high desert, y'all. It's where Gonzaga is. It is high desert, and those those early spring, late fall games might be they might be a trial on the human body.
yeah, D
Sponsored
Grant,
by the Donner Party.
yes. I'm checking. I think MLS Next Pro is a part of the Apple TV package, isn't it?
I believe so. That also reminds me that like I forget who it was. Some news publication was doing like all of their like landmarks named after Santa's creatures. So like Rudolph Pass and and like Santa Lake and Santa Clara and blah blah blah. And one of them they put on there was like Donner Lake. I'm like, that's not named for the reindeer, y'all.
Mm-mm.
I forgot who did that. Some news program was like, all these things are named after Christmassy things, and it's like Donner Lake or
No,
Donner Pass. We're like,
no,
no.
no,
I'm going to
no,
defer to John on this as the
no,
resident Californian, but
no,
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 it's not.
no, 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 no. That's incorrect. No, that has nothing to do with a reindeer. That has something to do with the conditions
If
that
they had,
reindeers function in, but nothing to have to do with Santa.
ironically, if they'd have had reindeer, it might not have turned into what it turned into.
Correct. That's your Google search for today, kids. So, D. Graham, as far as we know, MLS Next Pro is a part of the Apple TV package. And
I would imagine if they're not there, some of them might be on YouTube.
yeah,
I don't know the full story right now, unfortunately. Well, I mean, we'll get more information as next season gets closer. I know next year is like 2 days away.
yes,
It's 2 days away. It's the 30th.
yes,
I don't know
yes.
what day it is.
I know it
Look, I
all
get
runs.
up and I try and
This
survive.
week it
That's
all
basically.
runs together. It really does. And
Yeah, we had a meeting at work. We're like, man, it's a struggle right now to get work done. We're just no, everyone's just waiting. This is like everyone's on vacation, and if you're not on vacation, you're just like, this is just get you to the end of the year.
mm-hmm. Okay, so here's how it was phrased by Major League Soccer when the TV deal was announced. Season Pass, home to the most expansive and accessible programming lineup ever for MLS fans, including all MLS and Leagues Cup matches, as well as hundreds of MLS Next Pro and MLS Next games during the season. So that is how it is phrased. So I would bank on the MLS content. If it has MLS attached to it, it's going to be in the Apple TV package. So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, I mean, League One's adding Lexington and Knoxville just for the Southern footprint. So if you thought the Southern rivalries were one thing, you're adding Lexington and Knoxville now. Knoxville
For League One.
Yeah.
Oh my God, man! I mean, we're We're getting right up against some that's not far from Tri-Cities, y'all.
Hey, in League One, it just means more. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
I mean, because you've got Tormenta, you've got North Carolina FC. By the way, North
I
Carolina
mean,
FC.
and Tri-Cities is League Two. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
they're going to hear about it.
Yeah. North Carolina FC signed Rafa Mensingen, by the way, away from Chattanooga. You're adding Lexington. You're adding Knoxville after a successful year in League Two. They're going up to League One.
They're going to hear about that.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, I will be very disappointed if I don't get some sort of slander out of Knoxville directed at Tri-Cities.
Yeah.
Not that you should ever fight people from Kingsport.
No, or Bristol or Johnson City, but I mean, you think about the southern footprint for USL League One, and obviously we're going to have a lot of coverage in USL League One in 23. Charlotte, Chattanooga, Greenville, Knoxville, Lexington, Cary, Richmond, Tormenta. That's your southern footprint. That is your Dixon footprint for USL League One,
as it should be.
And it's going to be fun to follow as it continues to grow. But yeah, Rafa Mensingen over to North Carolina FC. One Knoxville has added Jan-Erik Linehaus and Eric McDowell. Central Valley Fuego has pulled Jose Carrera Garcia from Chattanooga. Gabriel Cabral, some news from Statesboro. Miami FC, the Miami FC has acquired Gabriel Cabral from a transfer from Tormenta, and the Kickers, Richmond Kickers, have re-signed Nathan On to help.
I can never say the Miami FC without doing it in the old Z 93 style.
Exactly. Thank you, Madman.
It's in the same vein for me.
Absolutely, it is. No, it's and having filled.
And the longer your pause, the more you remember it.
Yes, because it is.
It's the Paul Harvey effect, but on Z93, I guess.
Well, what I was going to say is that it is the Pat Summerall John Madden murder. She wrote.
Ooh. Yeah, that's actually that's a deep shout, but that's a good shout.
And usually what you do, and having filled in past lives for Art the Madman Mary,
we've both worn those shoes before.
Yeah. So story time with John. When Charlie and Company was the morning show at Z93, Art went on vacation, and
yes, he is wont to do.
And so I filled in for Art for a week on Charlie and Company when I was working in television with one of the local affiliates, and did the morning show. And it was when Jamal Anderson was holding out at Falcons training camp up in Greenville.
Oh God.
That tells you what year this was. And so one of the best teases that I ever wrote and ever said on air was when I was on Charlie and Company filling in for Art Madman Maring. I said, when I was teasing the upcoming sports report, I said, and you'll find out what both Jamal Anderson and I have in common. Neither of us are in Greenville, South Carolina. More coming in sports. So that was one of the best teases I ever wrote.
Is that 99 then?
I think so, yeah. D. Graham.
He went for 2000s. Yeah.
Okay. I can't believe that nobody in Montgomery has bought a USL team yet, whether League One or Championship. I don't
disagree.
Yeah, I mean,
it's wild.
The Championship budget would kind of have me lean in toward the one Knoxville path. Start in League Two, become successful, then go to League One. Knox is going to play on the campus of the University of Tennessee. They're going to play at the Vols soccer stadium on campus. Yeah.
Jason just got an aneurysm and he doesn't know why.
Well, and, I can guarantee you that after every successful pass, when they're on offense, you're going to hear Rocky Top at one Knox games. Literally. You're going to hear instead of Olay, you're going to hear Rocky Top. That's what you're going to get. I would say, D. Graham, that you're looking at venue for Montgomery, and it would be in one of two places. It would be, it could be in one of three places, but it depends on the stability of the third one. It could be at the Emory Fulmer Soccer Complex, over by AUM, and they have held soccer championships on that campus in the NAIA before. If you held it at Crampton Bowl, it would be on an artificial surface, and I wonder about the width of the field and the rent. And honestly, you could probably also do it if you wanted to be a little adventurous. I don't know what the state of play is over across the street at Patterson Field, the old baseball stadium, but you could lay it out that way, and you could do it like they did the Pinstripe Bowl, where you could go from home plate, either from home plate out to center field, or you could go from foul pole to foul pole. So there are 3 venues where you could do it. But I think the budget and the investment for USL Championship might be difficult. If I was in Montgomery, I would go League 2, try to follow the One Knox path, see how successful it was there, and then go League 1. That's how I would do it if I was in Montgomery. And as much as Montgomery invests in their sports, see Bowl, Camellia, considering that the city is a sponsor.
Camellia Bowl.
And I mean, you have the mayor cutting promos, 30-second promos, as a sponsor of the Camellia Bowl. So, you probably could get a decent deal on your venue, depending on which venue you wanted. But yeah, what I would do, D. Graham, is I would do this. I would go League 2, follow the Knoxville path, the One Knox path. I would go League 2 first, check your stability, check your bills, see if you could get the investment, then go League 1. Because that's what League 1 wants to do. League 1 wants these hubs. They want a Southeastern hub. They want a Northeastern hub. They want the Midwest. They want the Southwest. They want the West, to make it financially viable to participate. Because last time I checked, Jared, there is no direct flight from Statesboro to Fresno, California. That's a bit tough.
No, I mean, the only person I know who could pull that off is John Kramer, and I don't know if he'd have to stop off a couple times.
Mm-hmm. And Carmack is in. Jay Carmack is in this morning. They didn't invest in getting folks into the Camellia Bowl on time, or concessions, or referees. I heard about this. I heard that the experience was suboptimal for folks who wanted to get into the Camellia Bowl this year. That it was not. It was not a fun time had by anybody getting into the Camellia Bowl this year. You had folks like there were long lines and everything. So, and I mean, there have been times when it was a night game and it was great. I think it was Ohio U, and I think it was Ohio U and Georgia Southern actually. It was a night game as a part of the 4 letters events, and it was true, definitely true. Can't cross sides in the stadium, and all 14,000 Southern fans were on the one side. That is true. Yeah, and that's the thing is you've got to work on that end zone. You've got to be able to go from the one end zone to the other. I mean, from the one set of stands to the other in that one end zone that's by the street. For those that don't know the Crampton Bowl, I'm trying to think of. I think it's the north end zone is where the tents are and the TV camera is for the end zone shot. And that would be the place for me to have your walkway. But if you can't go from one side to the other to alleviate any kind of a traffic pattern, that's a problem. And the fact that you had 20,000 folks there, most of them Georgia Southern fans, and you can't function and you don't have folks prepared, that's not good. You got to work on that logistically if you're the Montgomery Sports Council and the city of Montgomery to get that prepared for next year. That sucks. That absolutely sucks. You deserve better in a bowl game like that to be connected, but it is 2 separate stands at the Crampton Bowl.
I do love the fact that we live in such a world where, like, bowl games nowadays, like, I was hearing a conversation about this the other day, where, like, they're so saturated, but so many of the small ones have found the right niche to make themselves weird and unique and magical. Like the Belk Bowl did it for a long time of basically saying, hey, we're a weird bowl that's played in the middle of December. These teams aren't great, but we're going to be really weird.
And now
come and enjoy the party.
And now you're sponsored by mayonnaise.
Yes. And they
And
poured a vat. And if y'all didn't see this,
oh,
they poured a Gatorade bucket full of Duke's mayo on Shane Beamer's head.
oh,
That's a thing that happened. Um, it looked like it gave him a mild concussion
yeah,
because mayonnaise, the viscosity of mayonnaise
it
is
is. It is not. It is
it's not
not.
water. It's not
It
Gatorade.
no. I mean, they
So
did
like the way it hit his head, the way his head jerked down, I'm like, oh God, they just concussed the poor man.
it well, and they did it in Boise with French fries. At least they didn't do it with full baked potatoes or raw
Yeah,
potatoes.
again, that's not even concussion. That's putting someone in a coma.
Yes. Um, so they did it with fries in Boise. They did it with mayonnaise in Charlotte. And there was and didn't they do it with Cheez-It crackers?
Yes, they did, and the players were like housing boxes of Cheez-Its in the locker room because after I play a sporting event, the one thing I want to do is just start shooting a box of Cheez-It crackers.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, makes my stomach turn to lead just thinking about it.
Well, but better that than a bad boy mower. If you started, if you
Have you
started,
ever looked those up?
yeah,
Like how much they cost?
like 11 gazillion dollars.
Yeah, very expensive, but like industrial, like you
Yeah.
put an industrial motor in a residential lawnmower, and
Mhm.
this thing's gonna move like the modified lawnmower in the Water Boy,
Yeah.
just hauling ass down Highway One.
And so, I mean, and Nick's for reference, yes, Nick's is from Montgomery. The Crampton Bowl was built 100 years ago. Yeah, it was built 100 years ago.
So
And
it's like their version of the of Legion Field, just
well, but at
this.
least at Legion Field, you can wander around. I mean,
Yeah,
it is somewhat cylindrical, but yeah, you add the basketball, volleyball, convention center venue in the southern end zone, where the big hill used to be, where if you were a kid, you're on the, Christmas Day for the Blue Gray game, you're sitting there and you're sliding down that hill, or you're parked in that section of the Crampton Bowl complex. But you add that so you can do non-revenue events and high school stuff, but you don't have a walkway to go from the east stand to the west stand. I mean, come on now, think about it. But yeah, the randomness of and this is why I love the Twitch pitch, because D Graham will mention a city and we'll sit there and we'll break down why they can or can't have a bid or a franchise in a lower division for the
well, they
sport
could,
we're talking about.
they could turn into Statesboro and decide, hey, we're gonna find a way to make this work. We're gonna hit this community in the right way, and then we're gonna be a part of the community, and we'll get our own venue
Mm-hmm.
with blackjack and hookers. Not that Tormenta has that, but
No, no, no.
go watch Futurama. Just
Yes, yeah. Go watch
dude,
Futurama.
it's weird like knowing the younger generation that's in teenage years, they missed Futurama. So like
But that's the beauty
you
of
make
reruns on
those
YouTube.
it is, but you make those references and they're like, what the hell? What's that? Like, oh
Uh-huh.
God, you are a child.
Yes,
Oh
absolutely.
man.
Yes, you are a child. Absolutely true. Um, so I wanted to talk about Old Firm a little bit, and I wanted to talk about transactions a little bit, because we talked
Okay.
about we talked about the SPFL, and we talked about transactions in Old Firm. For someone who has never seen Old Firm, what does Old Firm mean, and what does it do to someone that is a part of his Old Firm as invested as you are? What is Old Firm?
So one of the greatest, you know, one of the best ways to joke about it is to refer to Celtic and Ranger Das. So basically everyone's dad. So, like all these people who are fans, but like the middle-aged 50, 60-year-old fans who are very boomer about this.
Right.
Well, back in my day, and it's not really a rivalry if you haven't stabbed someone in the kidney and lost money for yourself yet.
Yes.
Um, uh, for those of you that don't know, I imagine by now most of you do. Old Firm Celtic and Rangers carries a lot of religious undertones as well.
Yes.
Catholic v Protestant.
Yep.
loyalists of the Union Jack and the Queen versus Irish Republicanism. Um, and yeah, they don't really like each other. I don't know how hot this one's going to run. Um, Beal just took over at Rangers, took over for Gio von Bronckhorst. Um, they've been okay. Should have lost to Aberdeen. We went over that.
Yes,
no, they should have. They were down 2-1.
Yeah.
Aberdeen was playing them pretty well, and then Jim Goodwin decided that he got scared and he needed a dog.
He needs a dog.
So he put the bunker on, and they lost. And they're 12 points off Celtic, I think, right now. 9 or 12 points off Celtic. Celtic has been running roughshod over everyone.
9 points.
They're not okay. So they're 9 points off Celtic, and basically Beal's trying to like figure out how he wants this thing to operate. It's a really weird time for him to have to play this game because I think he's starting to find a rhythm with Rangers. But you're also going against a team that is loaded down with basically the lion's share of technical players in the country of Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
They are actually also starting to score goals. Like they created. Celtic has a little Atlanta United in them in that they, because of the way Ange Postecoglou wants to play, they create a lot of chances. They cannot at times finish with a gun to their head if their life depended on it.
Right.
However,
mm-hmm.
They are starting to kind of regress to the mean in a positive way for them. It doesn't kill the season off if Celtic goes up by 12 necessarily, but it does put it on life support, I think, because they've lost one game this year. I'll watch it. We're probably gonna go to the zoo or something Monday because I'm off work and Ivy's off school. But I'm interested to see how the rest of it shakes out. Like, how does Aberdeen look coming up?
No doubt.
Does Jim Goodwin get the axe?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if he does.
Yeah.
Because he's just been so meh about everything with everything, and they've just looked so tragic.
Yeah.
So I want to see how they look. I haven't had a chance to get over and actually watch an Old Firm in person. I would do so on the recommendation of many friends of showing up without anything blue or green on.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't wear your colors. Just show up if you want to. Maybe show up without family, without someone you're trying to look after.
Yes.
Although I did have a family friend from Scotland years ago tell me that if you're ever in Glasgow and someone asks you who you support, Queen's Park Rangers.
Yeah, you go yes.
Or I'm sorry, Queen's Park. Queen's Park is a club in Glasgow that's, I think they're League 2, League 1. Queen's Park is your answer.
Yes.
So Queen's Park is if you're ever in a bar and someone asks you support, just say Queen's Park and go on with your day.
Yes.
Because there's a 50-50 chance you're going to get a hug, and there's a 50-50 chance someone's going to want to fight you.
Yes.
So if they care that much to ask you. So just say Queen's Park and go about your life.
Yep. Let's see. Actually, I mean, it might be Highland League or something because I've gone through League 1 and League 2, and they aren't here. So
they might be in Highland League. That's fine. Good for Queen's Park.
Yeah, really? So to be with Forres Mechanics and Inverurie Loco Works in the Highland League. In the Premiership.
We're getting into teams now that we would cover on an edition of Soccer Over There in Juice Boxing.
Yes. Rangers, by the way, are a plus 204 at home. Your draws a plus 263, and Celtic are a plus 121.
I like that draw number. Just because it's at home, they very much have back against the wall kind of thing going on there. I'm sure they're going to bring the fight because they're at home.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to want to press, and I will be interested because the thing is, like, we're comparing apples and Saturn V rockets right now.
Yes,
but in the past, like last year when Aberdeen decided to go play toe-to-toe with Celtic and Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
With Rangers, they were looking very good. Rangers kind of seemed a little gobsmacked by the concept of having someone fight them.
Yep.
However, when they did it, when Celtic had someone fight them, they kind of had that vibe of, oh, good, the taste of my own blood. Now I feel alive.
Uh-huh.
So I think pressing Celtic is basically daring them of, oh, you want to play.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how they do, because if they get sloppy at the back, yeah, Rangers could absolutely punish them.
Yep.
Alfredo Morelos, psychotic Colombian striker extraordinaire. El Buffalo, he should be healthy for that one. Up until 2 years ago, he had more red cards than goals against Celtic, which is not something you want your striker to specialize in a rivalry series. I think he had missed more penalties than he had scored goals. It was amazing, but that's corrected itself in the year of terror that was Neil Lennon's last year at Celtic. But it'll be a fun game. It's another one of those collections of like a River Boca, like the Turkish derbies, where when we get outside of the United States and we realize, like, oh, other cities in the world hate each other too.
Yes, that is true.
It's not just Tuscaloosa and Auburn.
No.
It's not just Michigan and Ohio State. Like, other countries hate each other too.
Yes.
Other cities hate each other. This is magical. We can all hate each other together.
Yes.
So,
and it is not on CBS Sports Network or Paramount Plus. So it's not on Paramount. It's not on Paramount Plus. So we wonder who's got it, and we'll probably find it on VPN. For those that want to get up early on Saturday,
somebody will have it. They won't not carry it.
Yep. And all right. So, what are your New Year's Eve plans? Staying away from amateur hour.
Oh, staying in. I don't go out on New Year's Eve anymore. Those days are done.
No, we don't either.
Yeah. I stay in. Like, we may go get food and drinks and bring them home while the sun is out.
Yes.
But I do not leave the house when the sun goes down on New Year's Eve. That is basically purge night for me.
Yeah, we have an activity that we will go to early and come back because someone doesn't like fireworks and the noise that is associated with them. And so it'll be Rowdy's. It'll be Rowdy Man's first New Year's Eve. He was not a fan of July 4th, and we anticipate he will not be a fan of amateur hour on New Year's Eve. And so we're going to come home early and hang out with the Rowdy Man and watch bowl games and do all that kind of stuff. And we'll be back on Monday. So Monday is 2023. We start looking forward. New Year's resolutions. It is both personal and soccer. So what are you anticipating? So it is the year in preview. We'll start looking at that because, by the way,
we are burying 2022 at this point. Like,
that is true.
May it rest in unrest and
Yes.
misery, because from a local perspective, as far as the biggest league in this country goes, it's not enjoyable. So all you can do at that point is throw it in the ground, and hope that it doesn't ever really rest. Because
put the dirt on top of it and hope that you don't smell the natural gas once it goes into the ground. But
a shallow grave, let the wolves have at it.
Yeah, so we're going to go at it in 2023 starting on Monday, because remember, folks are checking into the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground on the 6th, and practice starts on the 8th. And then the match on the 28th, I believe, at Finley Stadium in Chattanooga against Chattanooga FC. Then you have more training camp and probably a road trip in there. And the day after Valentine's, it is AmFam 2 as Toluca comes to town. So it's gonna be fun. Lost too many folks this year, in various and sundry forms and fashions, and obviously we will miss them, and we love them all very much for their contributions to our daily days and our daily lives. And so we will think about them fondly as we wander into 2023 when we start thinking about that on Monday. Nix, yes. Happy New Year, everybody. Be safe. See you next year. Please stay as far away from amateur hour as humanly possible so we can all have great conversations starting again on Monday. Thanks to all of you guys for making it another great year here at SDH across the network in our various forms and fashions. And so, Jarrett, if you would please, sir, Send us home.
Mucha plata, y'all. May 2022 be gone.
What he said. Play it safe, everybody. We'll see you Monday.